Hello guys, welcome to the third day of the ForexKits basic class. Okay, so let's go straight into it. Today we are considering PEEP calculation. So PEEP calculation. So what is PEEP? So PEEP is the smallest unit of measurement in the foreign exchange market. So every change in price is being recorded in PEEPs. We can now calculate how far price has gone, and then with that information we can determine how much profit we've made from that trade, following the idea of the lot size that we use for the trade and a lot more. So we'll go into lot sizes shortly, but then let's go straight into PEEP calculation. So yeah, let's go here, let's go on our chart and then pick. Let's look for a regular currency pair, because the way you calculate Japanese yen pairs are different from how you calculate other currency pairs in the foreign exchange market. So we'll do that for the JPY shortly. So this is where price currently is at 1.3874. okay, so 1.38374. so 1.38374. okay, so this is where price is at. So the reason why I included this fifth decimal point here is because I decided to talk about it, because most trading platforms or charting softwares will show this to you. Example is TradingView, which we just came from right now. TradingView will show it in 5 digits, and your MetaTrader 4 as well. Okay, will show your price quotations or exchange rates in 5 digits. Okay, but then you need to understand that the last digit here is a pipette. Okay, so last digit here is a pipette, PIPE. TTES, okay, and it's the smaller unit of the PEEP. So we have a PEEP which is used in calculating movement in the foreign exchange market, but then we have pipettes which are not really relevant to you, because we need to have 10 pipettes, okay, to be able to have one PEEP. Okay, so you do not need that information for anything, maybe for calculating spreads, but then using the fifth or calculating anything on the fifth decimal is absolutely useless to you in the foreign exchange market. So let's go straight into how to calculate PEEPs, and I'll also take out that fifth digit. Okay, yeah, so you start calculating PEEPs from the fourth decimal place. Okay, so in this particular instance 7 will be the fourth decimal place, because 7 is the first decimal that we have in that particular number that we copied out here. Okay, so let me clear this up. Yeah, so simple. Let's go back. So this is your first decimal. This is 7 is the first decimal, 3 is the third, and this is the second, and this is the first. Okay, so do not forget that. I'm just doing this to make it easier for you. Yeah, before I go into further explanation on how to calculate this, you need to understand that you do not, it's not complex at all, but then this can be automatically done for you by your trading platform or charting software. So TradingView has a ruler tool and a price range tool that will automatically calculate the PEEP difference between a certain price level to another price level. As long, all you have to do is just drag the tool from somewhere to another place, and it will do the calculation automatically for you. So I just decided to put that out there. Okay, so how do you calculate this? PEEP calculation is done from the fourth decimal place. So in this case 7 is the first decimal. So a decimal happens after you have a point, and this is where we have the point. This point right here, okay, is where we have the point. So this is the fourth decimal place, this is the third decimal place, this is the second decimal place, and this is the first decimal place. Right after the point, this is the first. So just count from the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so simple. Now that you have that understanding, what happens if price changes from what we have right now to 1.3838? okay, so initially we had 1.3837. What now happens if price moves up to 1.3838? okay, so we've had a 1 PEEP movement. Okay, and how do we know this? The only change that has happened is between these two numbers. Okay, so 7 and 8. Okay, so you now understand that 1 has been added to 7 for us to have 8. So that is the 1 PEEP movement. Okay, so what if that changed? What if that changed to 9? Okay, that's simple. It's a 2 PEEP movement. Okay, from where from the current value that we had, okay, to what we have now. Okay, 2 PEEP movement. That's just how it is. Every other thing here just follows like the basic math that you have in school. So just to understand that PEEP calculation, price is always PEEP calculation. So let me write this out. So for non-JPY pairs, okay, non-JPY pairs. So every other currency pair apart from currency pairs that have JPY as a core currency, example would be GBP JPY, okay, USD JPY, okay, AUD JPY, and then maybe Euro JPY, okay. Yeah, so any currency pair that has JPY as a core currency, the pip calculation that we are doing right now is not what works for it. We'll go into that shortly. We'll tell you how to calculate pips or pip difference, on JPY pairs, okay. But for now, let's just stick with how to calculate it on, regular currency pairs. So regular currency pairs are always quoted in 4 digits or in 5 digits, depending on if you are using a chat platform or the chatting software that you are using, okay. But then you need to understand that your calculations start from the 4th digit. So right after you have the point right here, and make your calculation to the right hand side, okay. So from the left, and point out the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th digit, and after that, start your calculations from the 4th digit, okay. So if we have a movement right from 1.3837 to 1.3830, okay. So you now understand that the difference between 7 and 0 here is 7, right? Okay, so that means that price has fallen by 7 pips, okay. So this was the initial value that we had. Every other thing stays the same apart from these 2 digits, okay. So this is a 7 pip difference, and this time around it's a negative 7 pip difference because it's not being added. It's not an increase from the initial value that we had here, rather it's a decrease. Okay, so another way that I like to calculate pips that makes it really easy for me, this is something that helped me years back when I was struggling to understand how pips work. So I'm going to show it to you guys right now. Okay, this is going to change the game totally for you. So let me space this out. Perfect. So yeah, so back to the number that we had. I forgot. Okay, so let me use 1.1005. okay. So now the way I do it, that makes it easier for me is this, okay. So I just partition this, okay. Any change that happens with the last, this is the 4th decimal place, the 3rd decimal place, the 2nd decimal place, the 1st decimal place. So if there is a change from the current value or the initial value that you had, and then it affects only this one, okay, so this 4th decimal place right here, this is the only one affected, that means that this is a 1 pip change, okay. So it has not gone into the tens already. And then if anything goes into this, there's a change on the 3rd decimal place, it means that this is now calculated in tens, okay. And then same thing for this. If it goes to the 2nd decimal place, that means that we've reached the 100th value of change for that particular currency pair, okay. And then this is the 1000s, which you not really have unless you are taking real long term trade targets, but every other thing stays the same, so I would focus less on that, okay. So what I mean by this is, if I back here, so if I push this to the right hand side, yeah, so let's do the calculation here. So 1.1005, okay. So if price moves from 1.1005 to 1.1008, okay, so 1.1008, you now understand that this is a 3 pip difference. If you add 3 to 5, okay, plus 3, 8 is what you get. So it's a 3 pip difference, okay. And then what happens if it's not just 1 digit again, so price now changes from 1.1005, price changes from that to 1.1010, okay. So clean this. So yeah, price changes from that to what? 1.1010, okay. So we now have, what is the difference between this? Now it's still a 5 pip difference, but then we notice that the 2nd decimal place has been touched, okay. The 3rd decimal place, sorry, 2nd from the left hand side, but 3rd decimal place generally based on the arrangement, okay, that has been touched, okay. So what now happens if this is 1.1015, okay, this is now you calculating plus the previous thing that we had here, this is a 10 pip difference, okay. So that means that we've gone into the tens. Do you remember that the 3rd decimal place is where the tens start? You start calculating the tens, okay. If this moves to 25, if this is a 25, right, let me clear that so I'll make it clearer for you guys to see. Yeah, so yeah, 1.10 1.05 and then 1.1025. okay, so you clearly, this is a 20 pip difference. Okay, you can see clearly that this is a 20 pip difference, and then wherever this third decimal place is being affected, you understand that there is a change. You know, the change is either in tens or the change is in tens. So we are now moving, we've changed from, you know, calculating single, you know, differences, so from 5 to 7, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 5, you know, we've started moving to 2 digits changes. Okay, that is how you calculate that. And if it eventually goes here, so let's say that the change, you know, happens, and then instead of 1.005 we now have 1.0125. okay, so this is clearly a 120 pip change. Okay, so this has been affected. Okay, the second decimal place has been affected as well. Okay, you can see clearly here. So we now have 1 down here. Okay, and then the difference between 5 and 25 is 20. So this is what a 120 pip difference, and then in the thousands as well. But before trades, you know, move up to 1,000 pip changes, right, it's going to take a really long time, and most people will not have the patience to sit for that. But every single thing that we've just said here, you know, stays the same for the thousands as well. So as soon as, you know, the currency here is being affected, there is a change here. Now that's that probably we've started moving into the 1,000. There's been like a 1,000 pip change, okay, in price for that particular currency pair. Okay, so let's let me take another example. So let me clear all of this up. Delete that. Okay, so yeah, let's look at AUD. Let's look at AUD USD. Okay, AUD USD. Okay, let's say that price is quoted at 1.0200 or 1.0200, because after the point you can't call a whole number. Okay, this is where price currently is at. Okay, if we have a 5 pip change positively, so that means that price is going to move towards 1.0205. okay, if we have a 5 pip change, this is exact value we are going to have. So 5 has been added here. Okay, and this is what we have. If it's a negative change, okay, if it's a negative change, everything, you remember that this is just like regular math in school. If it's a negative change, it's going to be here 1.0195. okay, so this is 200, you know, just like, you know, you do regular math. If you take out 5 from 200, we have 195. okay, so this is a 5 pip change. Okay, so yeah, back to the original example that we had. So let's say price moves from 1 point, you know, what we currently have now, 1.0200 to 1.0250. okay, so we'll now draw this right here. What's the difference between 00 and 50? okay, it's clearly a 50 pip difference. Okay, okay, so that means that we've had a 50 pip change in price in the positive, you know, for this particular currency pair. Okay, and then you can now see that once price goes to the third decimal place, that means we are now counting in tens. Once it's at the fourth decimal place, the changes, you know, are just going to be, you know, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 5, maybe 7, and maybe 9, but it's not up to the 10th value until, you know, we've changed the third decimal place. And then once it goes to the 100, so let's say that we move from here. So let me erase this. So yeah, so let's say that we move from here, and then price goes to so from 1.0200 we'll move to 1.0450. okay, so simple calculation. If we add, you know, if we subtract 1.0450, and then from the initial value that we had, 1.0200, so I put that out here, bring down 5, bring down 2, okay, 0.1, so every other thing stays the same, and this is our value. It's a 250 pip difference. Okay, so 250 pips difference, that is the change that has occurred, you know, for this particular currency pair. Okay, so this is how you calculate regular currency pairs. Remember, you start from the fourth decimal. If there is like a 2-digit change, you move on to the third decimal and make the calculation. Or if you notice that there is a change on the third decimal, it's likely that we've made, you know, a change, or we've moved over to 2 decimal changes. Okay, and then the third, you know, for changes that has gone into hundreds of pips, and then the first decimal place, which is this, the 0 that we have here, this is the second decimal place. This represents, you know, hundreds of pips, and then this represents thousands of pips. Okay, that is it basically. So regular subtraction and addition in like you do in school, normal arithmetic calculation. Okay, so how do you now calculate JPY pairs? So I'll clear everything on my chart. Okay, how do you calculate JPY pairs? So pip calculation for JPY pairs. So JPY pairs are not, quoted like every other currency pair. So remember, the other ones are quoted in 4 decimal points, and most times in 5, and then you just take out the 5 because it's irrelevant to you, unless maybe you are trying to see how much you are charged for a spread, because most times it's not up to a pip. Okay, but then this is it. JPY pairs are usually quoted in 2 decimal places, so it's going to be something like 105.20. okay, and then your charting software might give you an additional digit, like 3 here. Okay, and then remember that we need 10 of these to be able to make 1 pip. Okay, and if pip is what we are using to calculate a change, a single incremental change in foreign exchange, then you understand that the 3rd digit here is not useful to you. So I could hop back on my chart, so you'd see a real example. So back to our watch list. So GBP JPY, okay, GBP JPY, and yeah, close this. Look at where price currently is at 152.120. so 152.120. so I write that out, 152.120. yeah. So remember that this particular digit is not useful to you. So that means that the only digit that we need to calculate pips properly is what? 152.12. okay, so let's use this. What if price moves from 152, okay, 0.12 to 152.15? What is the difference? What's the pip difference between these two values? All you have to do is subtract the initial value that you have, because this is an incremental change, this is a positive change, right? So we'll do the calculation here. So 15 minus 12, okay, what do we have? 3. So it's a 3 pip difference. Okay, yeah. So taking a close look at how we did it last time to make it easy for us, you start calculating from the 2nd decimal place for JPY pairs. Okay, so JPY, do not forget JPY pairs. Okay, you start calculating from the 2nd decimal place. This is the 1st decimal place, and then this is the 3rd place that a change can happen. So it's not a decimal place, but then once you have changes that have reached hundreds of pips, this is the next place that you're going to look at. Okay, so yeah, so this is how we do it. So any single change that you have in price, this is the one that gets affected. So for a single change, so I write 1 there. Once the changes, the change has gone into the tens, into 2 digits, this is the one that gets affected. And then once this has gone into or the change has gone into hundreds of pips in changes, right, this is the one that gets affected. Okay, so simple. So from 1.152, sorry, from 152.12, let's say that price moves towards 152.32. okay, so what's the difference between these two values here? Okay, so 2 is not affected, this is the one that is affected. And then remember that it's in this, once something comes here, that means that the value is now in tens. So 3 and 1, what's the difference? That's 2, right? Okay, so 3 minus 1, 2, and then this gets the same, so it's a 20 pip difference. Okay, so 2 minus 2 is 0, right? So this is a 20 pip difference for this particular pair. Okay, the calculation just remains the same, just that what you do in this particular scenario is that you start from the 2nd decimal place. So let's say that price moves from this to 1.12. okay, so the 2 last digits here have not been affected. Okay, so 0, 0, and then this is the one that is affected. And this, remember that this here tells you that there is a 100 pip difference. Okay, so 2 and 1, right? 2 minus 1 is 1, right? And then look at that, that is 100 pip difference. Okay, so this is just it for how to calculate or pip calculation for JPY pairs. Okay, you start from the 2nd decimal place. If there is like a 2-digit difference, you come to where the 1st decimal place, and then if it's a 100 pip difference, you come to the 3rd character that you have right before the decimal, or the last character before the decimal. Okay, so yeah, so let's look at real examples. Okay, so examples. Okay, the first example we are going to look at is for what? JPY pair. Okay, so let's go there. Yeah, so this is my chart currently. So I got into a buy trade at this point, okay. So and this is where price currently is at. So I want to understand the change that has happened between these two levels, okay. So all I have to do is, copy the price level. So initially it was here. Remember, a buy trade, you expect price to go up. So 153.20, okay. So 153.20, okay. And then back here, and then we have 153.499. So let's say 153.50. So 153.50, okay. What's the difference between these two numbers, okay? Then you understand that if we switch this here, so 153.50 minus 153.20, okay. So the difference, the first one is 0, 5 minus 2, 3, every other thing stays the same. So what is this? This is the 30 pip difference, okay. So imagine that in this particular scenario, price moved from here to 154.50, okay, 154.50. So that's the same thing we'll do here, because it's higher, we are buying, it's going higher in the chart, and then of course that's what we'll start from the higher value to remove, subtract the lower one. So 154.50, this is going to be what, 130 pip, because there is a difference on this 100th value, okay. So this is going to be 130 pip difference, okay. So this is how to calculate for JPY pairs, okay. So I'll clear all of this, and then let's do an example for regular currency pairs, okay. So example, okay, E.G regular, so regular, okay. So let's take an example, Euro NZD, that's the euro and the New Zealand dollar, and then let's say it was quoted for us at 1.0515, okay. And then this is where price currently is at 1.0545, okay. And then we want to know the difference between these two. So of course we start the calculation, because this means that there's been a movement upwards, because it's a positive increase from 15 to 45, okay. So let's do that. 1.0545 minus 1.0515, okay. So let's put that here. 550 413, okay, 550, every other thing stays the same, okay. Sorry, 00 and then 1, okay. So that's the difference here. So the difference that we have between these two numbers is what, 30. So that means that we've had a 30 pip difference. So remember that the changes can be to the positive side or to the negative side. If it's to the positive, that means that if from that move that has happened, for the calculation that you have made, the value that you currently have would have been what you would have made in profit. And then if it's a negative value, that means that if you got into a sell trade, that would have been what you had, as profit for yourself, okay. And that's it for this video, guys. See you in the next lesson.